Welcome to the final installment of the Tremors-a-thon. While the third movie was intended to be the end of the film series, the popularity and success of both it and the TV series inspired Universal's home video division to want to have another movie. Not that Stampede would have minded, just they kinda wrapped up everything with movie 3 while the TV series just extended some concepts. Well, movie 4 would happen with or without them, but thankfully Stampede Entertainment had a plan. Set the movie in the past, thus making this a prequel film. Well, as long as it seems plausible, not like when they did it with Ginger Snaps back at the beginning. I hope. To help things along, since they were still busy with the TV series, they hired Scott Buck to help with the screenplay. He had worked on shows like Dexter, Inhumans, Everybody Loves Raymond, etc. Yet they liked his screenplay enough to make it a movie, so they filmed simultaneously with the Tremors TV series, just filmed in California instead of Mexico. Also, S.S. Wilson would solo direct this while Brent Maddock focused on the TV series. I don't know how much this would affect both works, especially as I've yet to see the TV series myself. But for now, we can start by looking at what I'm sure would have been the last movie if they didn't milk it for the Sci-Fi Channel. But first, that poster art. It took them 4 movies, but they finally put a damn Graboid on the cover that actually is one. Why it took this long, I'll never know. Let's just see how the legend begins. We open in Nevada, 1889, at a silver mine. Wait, is this movie a Western? Would fit within the timescale. Anyway, we see a couple of guys banter about money, with one saying the other's wife is stealing money, while the other says, "You're wasting it on whiskey." And then one of them gets mysteriously taken. And as the same guy asks around, it happens. Decapitation! Looks like we're off to a good head start. Anyway, the rest of the miners rush into his screams only to be slaughtered off-screen. The man can hear their screams, and it's not known what happens to him. Otherwise, the title sequence plays. It shows mostly grainy photos relating to western towns, mining, essentially all being a period piece. I think some of them might have been made to match actual photos, given the quality of certain ones, though I'm not entirely sure. The last one transitions back into the movie proper, and this time, we aren't in perfection, we're in rejection. It's about the same setup, though not many residents live here, and there's a Chang's Market here. I'm guessing most of those who lived here are leaving, including this guy riding a traction engine. Oh, I know just what to do for this. Anyway, the owner of the store, Pyong Lian Chang, played by Ming Lo, explains to his son Fu Yin, played by Sam Lai, that everyone's leaving because the mine is closed. No doubt because of what happened. We also take this time to meet other characters, like his wife, Fu Yin, played by Lydia Look, Juan Padilla, played by Brent Rome, hotel owner Christine Lord, played by Sarah Botsford, a Native American man named Tacopa, played by the late August Schellenberg, aka Randolph from the Free Willy franchise, and local drunk, Old Fred, played by J.E. Freeman. You don't think... Nah, he's probably just a reference to the first movie's Old Fred. One is actually the guy we saw at the start of the movie, the only survivor of the incident. Despite the horrors he saw, he can't afford to leave this town, just like everyone else. Luckily, Leanne received a Morse code telegraph saying that the mine owner is coming from Philadelphia.
Hiram Gummer.
Gummer? Well, that's a silly name. Wait. Did you mean Gummer? Well, his wagon arrives, and we're about to see what this guy looks like.
Probably fat. Rich people are always fat.
David Tomlinson, is that you? No, it's...
Hiram Gummer? I am he.
Not sure how to feel about Michael Gross playing a restrained version of Bert, and by the by, he had to work double time as he was filming for the TV series as well. Also, he originally suggested playing the role of Bert's ancestor as a woman, which I'm curious to see how it would have gone, but something tells me it might not have worked out well. In any case, things aren't going well for him since the guy he wanted to talk to, Anthony, who didn't return his communications, already left town right as he arrived. Also, he doesn't seem to be aware of his own mind closing, despite what he sent.
I feel I've not been privy to critical, most needful information.
Yeah, he's Bert's ancestor, alright, as he spouts the same catchphrase as him. But yeah, 17 miners died in one day, and thus the mine was abandoned. Only Juan knows what happened, and he's currently away at the moment. Christine gives him a quick tour of the town, most of which is closed now, and takes him to her hotel. By the way, when the stage wagon came, it dumped all his stuff on the ground, including a bicycle. Not sure why he needs that. Hiram questions if Christine is a gun collector, given her assorted arsenal.
The miners came west to strike it rich. When it came time to settle their bills, many of them had only their firearms left. Now I collect payments daily.
Nonsense, just keep a running tab.
Are you not that impressed? Or the least bit interested in the guns? No, he's just a bit of a snobby rich guy. He notes how the hotel room is just a tent, and because the supply wagons have stopped coming, she only has beans to give. He's still a bit of an asshole though, as he offers Fu Yin the last piece of gingerbread he has if he gets him something, only for him to eat it before he comes back.
But I thought you said I could have...
A word of advice, young man. Anyone can be taken advantage of, and if you can, do.
It's funny to me that Hiram is part of the problem that his descendant would make conspiracy theories about. With one bag, they can go over what's happened. The mine itself still has plenty of silver, just that no one wants to go back in. Tacopa believes that there are spirit beasts that live in the mine. Hiram naturally doesn't believe it and just tells them to get some miners and hunt what's down there. One says they'll only do it with the right pay, and Hiram reluctantly agrees while saying he'll go with them. They ask him a simple question.
What kind of guns you bring, huh? Bet you it's big and fancy.
I don't own a firearm.
What?
I don't own a firearm. I don't own a firearm. I don't own a firearm.
You don't own a firearm? You really are the opposite of Bert. I mean, I can't say I didn't see this coming, and it's a nice twist, but it's still shocking that he doesn't even have like a tiny gun for protection. Even Pyong Lin has one. Fu Yin just has a slingshot. Can't give the kid a gun still.
This is the Wild West, Mr. Gummer.
Anyhow, morning comes, and instead of a horse, Hiram thinks of riding his bicycle. Is he just meant to represent how dissonant rich people are with the rest of the world? Immediately the bike breaks, so he has no choice but to ride a horse. And he has never ridden one, so I'll be shocked if he does survive, despite knowing his descendant exists.
This is for you.
Oh, I beg your pardon?
This is the Wild West. Never go unarmed.
Now that's a sign of pity right there. He and Juan soon meet up with the only people willing to go hunt what's in the mine. We have Brick and Stony Walters, played by Matthew Seth Wilson and Dan Lemieux, respectively, Big Horse Johnson, played by John Dixon, and Soggy, played by Don Ruffin. I don't get it. They clearly don't have faith in their leader when he tells them to just go in and report. Oh, I get it! Johnson! Like Dick! Big Horse Dick! Anyway, he goes in with them. We see some body parts having been stripped to the bone, and a piece of the foreman's skin on Juan's hat. Nasty. They reach the end of the mine, and so far, whatever attacked them must be gone. Guess it's time to declare it safe to open. Best to set up camp for the night.
We can't camp here.
Oh? Are your graboid senses tingling and you didn't know it?
I need trees.
Oh, you needed some to put up a hammock. I hope this movie ends with you transformed into your great-grandson because you kinda suck right now. Saga gets bored and decides to play his accordion, though everyone else hates his music, so he instead plays for the horses. Juan confides in Hiram about his life and why he needs this job. He ends it by saying Hiram always had everything he wanted, and when he confirms it, Juan says he just wants a piece of it. Anyway, clearly something else didn't like Soggy's music as it takes him while throwing his accordion away. The horses get spooked and run away. Brick tries looking for him and... Okay, now this movie's starting to resemble a bit more like the first movie. There's still some build-up to the creature reveal, and we haven't made much use of the firearms or explosives that the second and third movies like to use. And with the night setting, I don't doubt that whatever Graboid or Graboid variant we get will get to be as scary as they've always been. Never mind. Lo and behold, the baby Graboid. Or Grabite, if you will. They kinda resemble cartoony-looking centipedes with what looks like a string of legs along its side, which are obviously meant to be the spikes that help it move like in the previous films. And okay, aside from how the first one just jumps out of the ground, these things can be scary with how they swarm together and drag people underground. What's worse than one giant worm eating at you? How about two smaller ones? They still detect prey through sound vibrations, as one goes for the steaming kettle. Hiram almost gets hit, but is saved by his own hammock. Then, as Juan orders everyone to get up on the rocks, he hits another with the ever-trustworthy pickaxe. And I guess Big Horse was a distant relative of Nestor, given his death. The survivors find out the hard way that sound is how they hunt. They clearly can't stay here, so they start climbing up the rock side. Back in town, Tacopa is digging a spot for a flagpole. I guess Nevada hasn't adopted a flag yet, so he's just getting ready. The others make it back to town and explain what happened.
When they're not underground, they're flying very fast.
Tulum. Dragons. Dirt dragons.
Yeah, dirt dragons is another name the baby Graboids are referred to. Personally, I prefer Grabite. It's short and gets right to the point. Hiram decides they need a sharpshooter to deal with the fast-flying creatures, so he has them send a telegram to Territorial Enterprise to send them someone like that. The others are hesitant to want this, but Hiram makes a good point.
But we need someone with fortitude.
Someone with a little sand in their craw.
Exactly. Someone who is proficient with firearms, who can...
Shoot the nuts off a squirrel at 100 paces.
Heh. As they wait, Hiram tries to repair his bike only to give up. That's when Fu Yin goes in and fixes it up. But there's a catch.
That'll be $5.
That's highway robbery.
A word of advice, Mr. Gummer. Anyone can be taken advantage of, and if you can, do.
Ooh, payback's a bitch. Hiram doesn't have the money, so he settles on just giving him the bike. He even teaches him how to ride. That's nice. 1 month later, Trevor the traction engine is huffing and puffing, hoping to one day provide the town with electricity. Also, Christine wants money for the room.
Mrs. Lord, in any civilized place, my name alone is quite sufficient.
Well, out here in the rough and tumble West, we tend to use cash.
Again, Hiram has no idea how life works outside of rich people land. At least he's not a complete asshole, as he shows concern for Fu Yin when he learns how he's used to go down this hole, since he's the only one who could fit down there. Basically saying he shouldn't be doing a man's work, which is fair since children shouldn't have to do such grueling labor like this. He then admits to Christine that he isn't actually rich, as the watch and coin he has on him are the only things left, because...
My father, in his final demented days, sold all his holdings and invested everything, the entire family fortune, in a certain silver mine.
I mean, there are worse ways to spend. Too many to list here, but let's keep going. He does intend to pay them everything once the mine is reopened. He does fall back into his snob-like demeanor during the night when asked what he'd do once the mine is opened and he gets his money again.
To return to the life I had. To wake up every morning and wonder, what will I spend my money on today?
An aeroplane! Then he better hurry and be the first then. A shadowy figure appears outside the tent, and just as Hiram tempts fate...
I'll amend my misspent life when the Grim Reaper comes calling.
In comes the man, Blackhand Kelly, played by the late Billy Drago, who was Deputy Mather in Pale Rider and Frank Nitti in The Untouchables. And he makes a great first impression.
I recommend that you keep that hog leg skinned. Unless you got a desire to be jumping over hot coals in hell.
Damn. He took up the job offer, and they tried convincing him about what exactly it is they're up against. When mentioning needing a certain level of skill, he gestures Fu Yen to toss him an apple. Guess he's gonna shoot it while in midair? Oh, he was just hungry. I'm with Hiram. I was expecting a demonstration. You're hired! Oh, and the pay was negotiable. Guess this will hurt Hiram's expenses, since while he'll take what silver he can carry, he still needs something paid up front. Since no one else has money, Hiram offers his coin, and also the cufflinks since Kelly ain't cheap. He'll also take what guns Christine has, since they'll need them for the Graboids. Also, as this was a thing at the start, Lou decides to give Juan one of her hats.
Oh, pero Luana, I still can't afford it, no.
No credit.
That's nice. Juan and Hiram take Kelly to the site of the Graboids, and despite using sound vibrations, nothing seems to bite. But then Kelly shoots a gun into the air and argues that there's nothing here. Not far from them, though, is some hot water and 4 large Graboid eggs. This must be where the Graboids came from. Based on the previous encounter, there are 3 of these things left, and now Kelly is interested again. They start tracking where it might have gone, find a piece of one of them, with Juan deducing that it was off like when a snake sheds its skin. And then they find old Fred's wagon. As they examine it, we see his hat on the ground, and you might think they're about to do another homage to the first movie again. Yikes! Maybe he is related to the old Fred of the first film. They bury his remains and try giving him a eulogy. Clearly, Hiram doesn't get along well with Kelly, given their exchange in dialogue. They head to the muling station for the night, and nothing seems to happen at first, until they fall asleep and, well... Oh, I see where this is going. So, safe to assume the Graboids are now Graboids, right? Oh, and now Hiram has a gun, a little pea shooter.
You said to pick something I was comfortable with.
You're right. I did say that.
Horses are gone again, so they're stuck. If they're going to be making a stand here, Hiram has to learn how to use a gun, so it's on Kelly to show him how it's done.
You're holding it like it's some skunk. Now it's an extension of your hand, okay? It's part of you. Lead plum that comes out of that barrel's gonna kill whatever you aim at.
I don't think I'll ever get used to seeing Michael Gross play someone that sucks at using a gun. It's clearly not working, and even worse is that the Graboids have figured out how to remove the floor beams. Juan attempts to send a telegram so that anyone may pick up, which Fu Yin manages to catch, and they seem to figure out where they are. The tapping continues, and then... So much for not being able to come up through the floor. Sadly, neither Tom Woodruff Jr. and Alec Gillis, nor Amalgamated Dynamics, would return to provide the practical effects for the Graboids. Instead, they were done by K&B Effects Group, who also worked on the Tremors TV series, and would later do the practical and makeup effects for The Walking Dead. Linda Drake and Kevin Kochover did come back from the third movie to handle the CGI, but thankfully in a much more limited capacity, such as with the Graboid tentacles coming out of the mouth. Anyway, they shoot at it till it finally leaves. Naturally, they're freaked out because it's no longer 3 small monsters, but 3 giant worms. Hiram tells Kelly he just needs to kill them, as he was hired to do, but Kelly says, "You need to know your goddamn enemy."
We're gonna hold our fire till they come after us. And then we're gonna go toe to toe, point blank, full bore, throw all the lead we got at them.
In the morning, the floor beams are all nearly gone, and because his coat braids are making sounds, one Graboid manages to sneak up on Kelly and starts swallowing him. Though not without a fight. R.I.P. Blackhand Kelly. You were a fine substitute for Bert while you lasted. The Graboids begin rising up, and they just ran out of ammo, but thankfully, Christine shows up with a wagon to get them out.
Are they following us?
I can't tell.
That's funny. The horses aren't fast enough, so Hiram takes out his slingshot and shoots a bullet at one to speed them up, and the Graboids give up. Everyone regroups to recover, worried that they'll show up here, but like in the earlier films, they can't leave the upper valley because of the rocks. Hiram decides to cut his losses and suggests everybody leave town. There's no way to recover the mine, and those things will continue to threaten them at this rate. Better to start their lives over, except no one wants to leave. They all have their reasons, but otherwise, they just refuse to go. Before Hiram goes, Christine tells him he should trade them ownership of the mine, and essentially blackmails him with knowledge of the Graboids if he attempts to sell the mines to anyone else. He reluctantly agrees and rides off, though Fu Yin wants him to stay. But he insists he can't do anything, and off he goes. To the town of Valiant. I guess Bixby wasn't founded yet. While he stares off into his own thoughts, while naked in a bathtub, we see Juan survey the land and find out that the Graboids have gotten through. They're on their way to town. It's not looking good. Back in Valiant, Hiram prepares to take a train out of town, but overhears a telegram about the giant worms coming, and he starts to have a change of heart. He heads over to Richter's Firearms, and in the next scene, we see everyone preparing to leave town after all. However, who should return but Hiram?
Remington 45 120 rolling block. 1 Henry repeater rifle. Smaller caliber, but impressive rate of fire. 1 8-gauge Remington, Derringer.
Damn, quite a selection you got there. I'm amazed you can even name most of these since you're still not great at...
And this, a 2-inch bore punt gun.
The hell is that thing? According to Wikipedia, punt guns were large shotguns that were used during the late 19th to early 20th centuries to shoot down large groups of waterfowl at once. How did he even get all this? Well, he traded his valuables after all.
A wise friend once told me it's not important how you spend your money, but how you spend your life.
He says they should stay and fight, and everyone is on board with it. They spend the night planning what to do. They need to make noise to lure the Graboids up and attack them that way. In the meantime, they set up multiple rods with cans tied to them, just like in the other movies, to detect them when they come. They set up the punt gun, they free the horses to remove unnecessary noise, and they get out Trevor the traction engine. With their firearms ready and their traps set, the operation begins. As they clang a triangle, nothing seems to show up. But then they do hear something off in the distance and get back to it. Just in time too, as when Hiram gets to his punt gun...
You missed! With a cannon!
What did you expect? He panicked. Fortunately, he has time to reload and try again. This time with some backup.
I got a shotgun.
There you go, your first kill. Hopefully that will lead to something down the line in your family. Here comes the second one, and it drags the gun underground. It goes after Juan, who climbs a pole, only to start sinking it to get to him. Tecopa acts fast by sticking a long saw into the ground, luring the Graboid over, and... Surprised that worked, but whatever, 1 to go. Where could it be? Well, damn! Here I thought they wouldn't kill anyone else. You son of a bitch. Now it just circles the town and no one knows what to do. Pyonglin mentions using the traction engine to leave, but as the others say not to give it up, they get the idea to build a big firecracker. As they get materials and set it up, someone decides to try contacting the town through telegram, so now the Graboid is going for the noise. There goes Chang's Market, but thankfully, Fu Yan is alright. By this point, they begin to see that their usual tricks to attract attention aren't working, because these things just continue to adapt to their every whim. At this rate, they won't finish the bomb in time, but Hiram has an idea. He claps a pair of ice tongs under the Graboid's tail and has it dragged by Trevor the Traction Engine. Well done, Hiram. You managed to save the town.
No, we got him.
As everyone settles back in, Hiram receives his loan to hire new workers, and Christine says he owns the mine again. He'll only assume ownership under the condition that they never tell anyone about the dirt dragons, which wouldn't explain how their descendants forget about them, and that they'll use the proceeds towards a better hotel, a new market, Juan's land, and whatever Tacopa wants.
A new statue. One that looks like me.
And to commission a statue for Tacopa.
And thus the town is renamed to perfection, even though according to the first movie, it was established in 1902, so...
Great continuity!
The people begin flocking back to town, and Hiram is learning to properly use firearms with Christine. He intends to stay, supervise the mine, even set up a home here, with a basement, and hints at asking Christine to marry him. And so the movie ends with her presenting him with a Colt 1865 Gatling gun and enjoying himself. And thus a legacy was born, one that would give us our dear friend Bert. So, besides the continuity issue, this movie's really good. It's refreshing that instead of continuing the approach they had with the second and third movie, they dialed back on the action a tad to account for the era it was set in. More opportunities were made to build tension, better nighttime segments, and most of all, taking Michael Gross and giving him a completely different character. Seriously, it is great that Hiram doesn't start as being an expert in firearms or as a conspiracy theorist. He steadily goes from a selfish, rich person to a responsible mine owner who wants to help others and protect their livelihood. He only really starts to show the same gun-toting personality that Bert has right at the very end as a way to cap off his character development. And Gross's performance makes it all the more convincing. The rest of the cast is pretty good, and nice that not all of them died. Only old Fred really got the short end, and I wish we had a bit more of Kelly. The movie does feel a bit slower than the other movies, but not too much that it's a slog. It's almost about right, and kudos for them to limit any new Graboid facts to just, this is what their baby form is like after hatching. And the deaths of the Graboids are pretty creative, again, for the era they set this in. Now, despite how this movie is, and while it also premiered on the Sci-Fi Channel like the third movie, its DVD sales were not exactly stellar compared to the previous entries in the franchise, but that's only because the DVD market was starting to falter, and Universal barely promoted the movie at all. Then, while Universal asked Stampede Entertainment to make a script for a fifth movie, they ended up shelving it. When they did bring it back, 10 years later, Stampede was only offered executive producer credit with no creative control, which they ultimately rejected. Speaking of the fifth movie, that marked the beginning of the Don Michael Paul era of movies that started in October 2015 and lasted until 2020 with a sixth and seventh movie, all with Michael Gross returning as Burt Gummer. They are not very good from what I hear. I might look at them next year if I have the time. Otherwise, there was also a rejected pilot for a new Tremors TV series in 2018 with Kevin Bacon returning as Val? Heck yeah! It would have been done by Blumhouse Productions and would have ignored all but the first movie in continuity, though sadly, multiple delays and network changes to the Sci-Fi Channel eventually led to production getting cancelled in 2018. Now, according to Bloody Disgusting, Stampede Entertainment had recently won back the rights to the Tremors franchise and is exploring ideas on what they can do for a direct sequel to the third movie. That may or may not bring back Kevin Bacon, but we'll see. For now though, let us take solace in knowing that over half of this franchise is made up of some really good monster flicks. All are creative in their own way, done by people who love the monster horror comedy genre and the fans who watch them. Whatever comes next, I hope it turns out well. Then maybe one day we can make another return to that little town of perfection. I'm the Media Hunter. Media is my prey, and reviewing them my way.